Hey YouTube, Elite Legionarii here, bringing you a 2 vs 2 for Medieval 2 Total War on the Deathtrack map. I will be in command of Egypt, and I'll be allied with Jarlamona, who is in command of Scotland, and we shall face off against Taristicus, I think that's how I say his name. He is England, and X-Joker 0x, who is France. So I'm just going to pause, guys, while I outline the armies, because action does get going pretty quick and I don't want to miss any of it. So I've got 2 units of Saracen Militia Spearmen. These guys will just hold out a cavalry charge if possible and protect my more valuable heavy infantry units. I have 4 units of Debarteria, which is heavy two-handed axe wielding units. A good two-handed unit, but again, it is going to have that two-handed unit glitch that it faces. So, you have to bear that in mind when you choose. And that's the problem with Egypt is, in my opinion, Egypt isn't as good as some of the other factions because it's got not the greatest infantry options. However, I do have 3 units of Hashashim, which are good, but again, the problem with Hashashim is they're only half strength and they are expensive. But they are very good in support roles. The idea is to pin with these guys and then support with the Hashashim, and that should help. In conjunction with 3 units of Nafatoons. If I use these Nafatoons, that'll cause some serious mass routing problems if I do it right. You've seen my other videos where it's been done to me and to others, and I've done it to others, so it does work. 3 Desert Archers. These guys will simply stall his archers. I don't expect much out of them. They're not the greatest archers around. And the real power of any Egyptian army lies in its cavalry. I have 2 units of Mamluks, which are a good heavy cavalry unit, 2 units of Royal Mamluks, which are a very good heavy cavalry unit, and 2 units Arab light cavalry for support roles. They'll just, encirclements and general fast action responses and things like that. My allies' army consists of, I might unpause it at this stage now, I think it'll be alright. He's got 3 units of Knights Hospitaller on his far left flank. On his far right he has 3 Templars, and he has a General's Bodyguard here somewhere too, back here. He also, for infantry, has, I believe it is, 4 Noble Pikemen. I think, or it might be 3 Noble Pikemen. No, he's got 4 because he's sending another one up here. And he has he's got a mixture, I think it's 4 Gallo Glaciers and 4 Noble Swordsmen, so a pretty heavy infantry force, but it's pretty typical Scotland, but he's got a good cavalry force as well, although I suspect he's not packing upgrades because his army's pretty huge. Now the English player, I just want to keep an eye on things because as you can see I've started moving my cavalry out to the left here. I wanted to try and bait some of the French units away because they've got a pretty good defensive position. As do we though. So the English player has got 4 Knights Hospitaller. He's got 2 Demi Lancers. I'm sure he's got 2. He's got 1 here. I'm sure there was another one somewhere as well. Yeah, here's the other one up here. So yeah, it's his 6 cav, and that's some good cav. Hospitals are always reliable, and Demi Lancers are actually a rather good cavalry unit. Even though their stats aren't as high, they are actually quite good. He's got 2 Yeoman longbowmen, and he's got 2 longbowmen and 2 Sherwood archers, so a pretty heavy archer force, but that's pretty typical. And for infantry in the front here, he's got 3 Bill Militia, which I don't think is that great. 3 dismounted English Knights. We've got an excellent charge and it'll do a lot of damage, but again, they are a 2-handed unit, so you do have to be wary with those units. He's got 2 Armoured Swordsmen. These are by far his best infantry. And I believe that is the English player. And he's set up a pretty defensive situation, so, when a Scottish player attacks, he should attack from up here in the woods and come down and avoid those stakes. So the French player, I might just pause again because I think that there's just going to be a big bit of action very soon. So he has 3 units of Scots Guard, 2 units of Aventura there. So there's a mixture of 5 very good missile units. 2 pikemen screening his guys there, 2 dismounted noble knights, which is more or less the same as the English ones. He's got some chivalric knights, which are an excellent sword unit, 2 mailed knights, and more chivalric knights over here. Looks like he's got a mixture of those other heavy infantry units over here. So that's his force. Now, in a moment, England will bring his cavalry through and attack in a pretty hasty fashion. So what I've done is I've sent some guys over here with the intent of trying to draw out some of the French units, or basically just try and pick them apart any way I can. Interestingly enough, he's only got mailed knights. Now they should never be underestimated. They're not nearly as good as many other knights, but they're still effective if used properly. So he's bringing this cav this way. And I'm fortunate though that France didn't go with any really heavy cavalry units, because I would be completely outclassed by them. Well, I wouldn't be outclassed by them, but the issue would be that I'd be about equal with them, or outclassed by one or two of them, but the problem is infantry would be so much better than my infantry, and if I don't have a cavalry advantage over France, I'm going to have a really hard time of it. So, anyway, England should begin to make his attack any moment now. He goes pretty hasty here, and it is where we get the advantage. He comes in with his cav. So here he's going to go. He's going it now. And the problem is he hasn't considered this, although what he's trying to do is he's trying to hit my infantry units here that are quite far from my cavalry. But however, this is what my Saracen militia are for, because now I will use my Saracen militia to screen this charge. Now he is going to go for these guys, however, I do have my two Mamluks here and Scottish players in support. However, I do wish he went this way and stopped these guys. So here I'm going to turn off my Saracen militia around to absorb that. And the French players should have followed through with an attack here if they wanted to do this. However, I don't think they were in communication, so there was a communication fault to there. So now I'm pulling my archers back because they're in a bit of danger there. So over here, I've managed to pin down one of his hospitals, and I did quite a bit of damage because I got a better charge. Over here, however, I'm in a little bit more bother because I'm getting surrounded. However, they are Mamluks and they can fight pretty well. And I have got a unit of Royal Mamluks coming in, and I also have my other unit of Cav coming in, and Scotland's there to support. And again, I've left a couple of Cav units hanging around over here just to make sure France doesn't get too aggressive. So once I get my Royal Mamluks in, however, they're much better than Hospitallers, so I have no problem defeating those. And I've bring in one of my Arab Cav for support. Also at this stage, although he does rout one of my Mamluks there, the Scottish player has effectively taken up the slack on that part, and we start to rout a lot of these English cav. He's far from support, so our missile units, or my missile units, are able to do quite a bit of damage, or offer support rolls. Now he pulls a unit off to come after me over here, but because I left a Royal Mamluk and an Arab Light Cav in support, I won't take too many losses there. He was after my Napatoons, but I managed to get him to safety. And now I'm going to encircle this remaining unit here, I think, or yeah, I think so. Or I was sending it in support over here, but now I'm going to use it to encircle this hospital. Now he's going to try and pull up and go after my heavy infantry there. However, he doesn't have much of a charge, and his morale was broken up there, so he routed. So a pretty hasty attack by England, and that allows us to take the lead in this fight, which is great. However, now I'm under significant missile fire from the French player, or I will be very soon. Should never underestimate Aventure. It is an extremely good crossbow unit, if not the best in some cases. And of course Scots Guard are fantastic. These guys absolutely are awesome archers. They're as good as retinue longbowmen, if not better in some ways, because they've got more armour. So they have the armour piercing arrows, and they've got a lot more defence, I think, so they're possibly one of the best longbow unit in the game. Love these guys. If you're playing as France, we have quite a lot of success with these guys. So I'm under quite a lot of missile fire here, so I've gone into loose formation. It's really the only thing I can do at this stage. My missiles are completely outranged and outclassed by those Scots Guard. However, I have managed to save quite a lot of my cavalry. As you can see, I've still got 4 good units, or 4.5 good units. And Scotland's still got quite a lot as well. Now Scotland, what I want him to do, or what I asked him to do, was to come out round here, because this stops him having to go through these stakes. So I'm confident I can actually deal with France, because I've got a good cavalry advantage over him. So I'm going to make a push on him, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to push for this section over here, where he's far from his men, so he's going to have to pull back and go into support, otherwise he's going to become isolated. Now I've got to protect my Napatoons, because they will do a lot of the damage for me, or a lot of the morale damage, and I need them when I go up against this French infantry, because that's where I'm going to be outclassed. I need to keep my cavalry and my Napatoons alive, because they are the ones that are going to be able to save me. So what I'd asked Scotland to do was to move around over here, like I said, to come in from the side and to get up onto this hill, because a lot of English players don't want to leave their little set and stake defences, so you can outmaneuver them, and that is an advantage that should be exploited when it can be. So I'm going to make a push on my side now, but again I don't want to do it too alone, but fortunately England's quite far from France, so it's not too bad. And the Scottish player is just sitting here at the stage, and he needs to be careful he doesn't get into range of these long English bowmen. So as you can see, what this is enabling us to do, if we come from this side and this side, we can almost kind of like close in on them like a claw, like a pincer type movement, which is what we're trying to achieve here. And they're going to pull back and play a very defensive strategy, which sometimes work, but the thing is with defensive strategy, you're giving your opponent the field. So unless you absolutely ensure that you've got the best place on the field, the enemy can now use the field and exploit it against you. And they have got a pretty good location, but Scotland can seize this high ground up here. And I mean, over here, if Scotland seizes that area, it doesn't really matter where I come from because the terrain's fairly straightforward. So I'm just moving my guys into position. Now I have taken a few casualties. Look at this battery is down to 41, so I did take quite a bit of missile fire from the Scots Guard, and I need to play it carefully when facing those Scots Guards. So, I was just thinking to myself, if Scotland had access to such great bows, why should it give them to France? No, I'm just kidding. There must be a reason. I don't know my medieval history as well as I do my Roman or ancient Greek or something, so I'm assuming there must have been some sort of settlement of Scottish archers in France or something, or it could just be a fabrication of the game. So now the English player has now begun his assault. However, the Scottish player, again, he's not, if I were him, I'd come up here, because then he has to break this formation apart, and then he can easily just come downhill, get a downhill charge. However, he has brought his cavalry. I was telling him to do this, but going straight in through the pikes, you don't do that. It just causes problems and makes it harder for yourself. However, he can force these guys to make a retreat, but as you can see, it won't lose men going through the pikes like this, but it disrupts formations, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It'll be easier to come from here where it won't disrupt his formation. However, he has managed to snag up quite a lot of these archers. As you can see though, he's not going to be able to form his pike wall very well. He's going to be very disorganised. These stakes are going to get in his way. He should have come from up here. However, the English player has no longer got calves, so just repeated strikes against these heavy infantry units by these Templars and Hospitallers will do plenty of damage. And I'm preparing to move in because I don't want that French player going in to gang up on the Scottish player with England. So here's, look at this, 60 down to, let's have a look. How many did they go down to? Look at that, one charge, and they're down to 9 men. 9 men, they went down by 51 men. And then he just destroyed it, and he done the same thing pretty much on the other side. So, that is why Cav just dominates infantry. So now on my side, I'm preparing to charge. I'm going to be stalled majorly by these pikes, but I've now engaged in a missile duel with them. And I'm sending some of my Cav this way, and some of my Cav through here. So now I'm going to condense into tight formation, but pikes are a really great way of stopping two-handed units. So I do manage to get into them here, so it's alright. And I think I've sent some of my Cav around this section, because they've almost got a box going on, at least the French player does. I don't know why he went that defensive, he didn't need to in my opinion, as long as he kept my Cav busy. So here I'm going to strike these English archers. I see the complete opening, so I'm going to take them out. As you can see, the Scottish player's infantry routes on this side, but it is holding because he's got good cavalry support going on, whereas the English player wasted his cavalry earlier. Now I see an opening here. I'm going to slip my Hashishim around to the flanks of these units here, and I've got my Napatoons coming in now, so his Chivalric Knights and his dismounted Noble Knights are taking some serious beatings here, and they'll start to mass rout under that. Here I see some of his heavy knights exposed. I don't have much men in that unit, so I do need to knock about 20 men out of it. Over here, I have his male knights pin down my Royal Mamluks. I fight my Royal Mamluks, we have no bother winning there. The only concern is all these missile units. But I'm managing to stall them pretty well with my Desert Archers. So as you can see, a lot of the French infantry starts to break because it is outmaneuvered. As you can see, the Scottish player has done a good job. He has now gone around behind these stakes and he's got the English player completely pinned. Over here I'm making strikes into these archer units. I want to try and disrupt them so they can't be used. And I'm also continuing to use my Napatoons to rout these French infantry units, which are much better infantry units than my own. but because they're getting flamed or bombed like that, the morale is breaking very quickly. And repeated cav strikes are doing a lot of damage. However, continuous missile fire is also dropping a lot of my cavalry units. So at this stage I figure I need to stop these guys from firing. Even if my guys just disrupt them, if they stop them from firing, I kind of wanted the Scottish player to hammer the back of these guys now. And he doesn't sort of do that. So he starts flaming me, and it does do a bit of damage, but I'm trying to rout this 4 infantry, and I do start to succeed in doing so. I also started flaming with my own guys here because I want to try and use morale damage to rout the remainder of the French infantry, and I am successful in this. At this stage, however, the Scottish player is coming in. My general just gets raised by a good arrow shot. But the French player has blocked a lot of his stuff with the pikes, but now there's a great opening for these cav here to come into these Scots Guard and into the back of these pikes. As you can see, my Napatoons are now in as well. They are there somewhere, I can't really find, there they go. Here they get charged by their longbowmen, although they break immediately because their morale is so damaged. Over here, some of these pikemen and noble knights are actually beating my, what are those, Tabarderia. They're pretty tired at this stage. And a few of my units are starting to rout. I'm trying to pull my guys out, but the Scottish player needs to keep hammering these missile units, because I am actually doing pretty good over here for the most part. My Hashishim are doing a pretty good job. As you can see, some of these French infantry did regroup, I think, and destroyed some of the Scottish stuff, but it doesn't really matter at this stage because the Scottish infantry and cavalry has effectively disrupted a lot of these missile units, and now I can add support. My missile units are still firing away pretty nicely, and I believe this unit did rout before, but it's regrouping as the Arab Light Cav. So for me, I let my cav and my Napatoons do most of the work for me, and just support my infantry. But basically, I think, England, it was a nice look at that whack the general with his big axe. So I think their mistake was allowing us to take the field. There was no need for them to go that defensive, I don't think, and it allowed us to take the field, and it's really paid off. So Scotland's done a nice job getting rid of these missile units, and I'm going to come from the outside with my remaining cav, as few as they are, and it does rout this particular unit. And you hear that for Scotland. Such Sean Connery's on the field. Anyway, that's basically it now, guys. We're managing to rout these guys, although a few of these chivalric knights have regrouped, so I'm going to send my remaining Hashishim in to assist, and whatever else I can. And there is quite a lot of his men there. Now, I do still have my Arab Light Cav, so I will probably regroup with that soon. I'm flaming these guys, and they are starting to get defeated now. Hashishim are excellent, and they will defeat noble knights pretty easily, because they're a sword unit versus a two-hander. As you can see, still a lot of Scottish cav surviving, so he's done a pretty sweet job. And now that I'm flaming these guys, it's not helping the morale, and here comes some of these noble swordsmen coming into the flank there. So that more or less deals with the forces of France and England. And I must admit, that was a fun fight. I love going on the attack like that, it's playing into my style. So there's the English general taken out. So Egypt and Scotland went up against France and England, a very unlikely alliance, but nonetheless it was a lot of fun. So when you're playing as Egypt, your infantry are going to be most in pretty much every faction are going to be outclassed, but you're going to have great cavalry, and if you use Napatoons to support, you should be fine, even against a powerful faction like France, which is a much better faction. So they both admit, there's the stats, 74% of us down, 93% of them, so pretty heavy losses nonetheless for us, but still a fun battle and pretty chaotic battlefield. So there's the stats there. I have 920 kills, 139 catches, that takes me just over 1,000 there, and my ally 835 and 149 takes him to about 1,000. As you can see, these guys, still pretty good numbers of kills, but ultimately they were defeated. So if we look at the stats here, Royal Mamluks, as you can see, 73, 113, so lots of kills for them. They got most of the kills. The other Mamluks, one of them took Now it came up even with the hospitality unit, so it's not too bad. This unit though did well. The Nafatoons, surprisingly large amounts of kills for Nafatoons. Usually Nafatoons don't get many kills, but what they do is the morale, they destroy enemy morale and cause mass routes rather than get large kills, but this time round they actually did get quite a lot of kills. The Hashishim played good support roles to the Tabata rear, and I have to say, looking at the stats of these Tabata rear, that's pretty good for them because they're usually not that great. That's actually pretty good for them. 47 and 58 is pretty good. Arab Cab, 89-75. Who said Light Cab was bad? Light Cab was very effective. Very good support for carry fights. Very great at running down missile, cav, archers. Just general good to do encirclements. And they're still good at doing cav charges. Not quite as good as heavy cav, obviously, but nonetheless still good. Even the desert archers, they got all into the 30s, and these are pretty crappy archers. So, you know, I'm pretty pleased with the way that went. I think I was pretty successful there, and so was my ally. He was right in support, and you know that worked well. We worked together well, and it always helps. So good to work with Jelmona, and great game to Tauristicus and ex-Joker. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know I did. Fun battle, and I'll be bringing you more soon. So I'll see you then.